Aloha! Good evening to everyone. I hope you're doing well out there wherever you are. Whatever time of the day it is this evening here in the lovely and secluded village of Abisko, Sweden.
Aloha and good evening to everyone. We are staying in a cozy cottage at the Abisko Mountain Lodge. Last night we saw the breathtaking northern lights just above the cottage. The food was excellent, with hot and cold breakfast, lunch, homemade soup and bread, and evening gourmet meal. The location is great with snowmobiling and husky sleigh rides. All the staff were friendly, helpful and accommodating.
We're here to talk about the right to introspect and the right to feel a deep state of being that relaxes the body into a sway with your Tao that gently allows you to motion and cascade a system in which you can perceive easier, witness your world easier, finding your way to forgiveness of what isn't right, and finding your way to sensing a state of compassion for everyone and everything in your life. I'm going to speak briefly about the white, silver, and gold ray. This ray cleanses out hell and cleanses out darkness. I would like you to begin to run the white, silver, gold ray through your molecules today and in your sea ship. Fill yourself and fill your home with this beautiful ray. I'll tell you about it from my personal experience. First of all the hell gates have moved off planet that are hovering around the moon in the orbit of the planet at this time. And that is a huge release. The Tao made these cyclones of these huge pillows of this substance and dropped it on the planet for 24 straight hours, one planetary pillow every hour. And it literally sinks so much darkness out of the aurora. You can't even imagine what this is going to mean on a planetary scale. And the future is still unknown of how it will actually affect the sum total of the human experience or the planetary experience. But the planet is starting to flower again. There have been so many hell gates and substances from hell that hit the mountains and the sea that the flowers of nature had shut off. Many of you, and including Asur'Ana and Pair, used to bloom with nature all the time. We would go to the parklands and flowered. Well, they stopped flowering, and then light blares. And when light blares, it injures things. As it injures you, you can go near blind because it hurts the eye socket or the lens, or you can have other problems in the blood that are related to light wave blood cancer and lymph cancer too. And so having the planet flower again is a much gentler light to dance within. But all the same, the light is very strong because as this substance hit, the gates doubled in size and you could be subject to light wave eye glaze, okay? And that can make you feel like your eyes are fuzzy or hazy and can't see as clearly as you need. So what you need to make sure to do about that is have very dark and good blue-gray sunglasses, and maybe with the mirrors on the outside too, like the Maui gym, and wear a hat out in light. You may also want to tint your car windows to be dark if you drive a lot, because it can lead to light wave blindness, and none of us can afford to be blind really in this time period. The Taos all make that recommendation for each of you. Also, the eye rinse is very important, at least twice a day. And if you can afford a seer, putting it in the eye will take care of eye glaze almost within 20 minutes, because it will revive the lens and let the old lens slough off, which can get etched or scratched in major light motion very easily. So please do these things for yourself for the sake of your own vision, and don't get into a position where you're going near blind. The other thing we can share is that there's going to be a lot of changes of beautiful dreams that can resurface for humanity and for your life as a star seed. So there's hope and possibility of the need to take care of yourself in this extreme light. We also share one other thing for those of you going through major transfusion, is that you should choose apple juice every day, or you might end up with light wave blood cancer or lymph cancer. Also try to exercise such as swimming, walking, yoga, Pilates, or Tai Chi 3 times a week minimum will turn the lymph. Eating watermelon along with yellow melon or green melon, because all of them do something to condition the blood, condition the lymph in a way that helps it survive extreme light. That won't dry out as easily, and it will have the right pectin and substances in it that help you. So please do these things for yourself, because now is a time of major light, even bigger than we thought, due to all the changes coming along from this gift of a Tao from far away, who wanted hell to recede off the planet and give humanity a chance perhaps to do something else other than war. And so we'll see what happens, and may have seen topsy-turvy for a while, but in the reality of it, and people may come more to peace as you simply flow the white, silver, gold ray at them or towards them, and let it change the dreams of you and they to be not a dark dream, but something else that's very beautiful for you to interplay with them. So now I like to have you drop into your heart space and go into a space of being if you can. If you want to sit back and close your eyes, that's okay for this particular verbal essay. The right to be is an intrinsic stature of motion. Rest the body but retains it lucid and aware enough to look at its own existence or introspect over the journey of what you are attempting at this time in your life stanza of existence. The right to be is asway with the Tao that occurs through the void, and today we're going to do a void repair because void can get very mutilated and destroyed. And with all this white, silver, and gold energy flowing through you, now the void in and of itself needs to be changed. Void is generally a beautiful dark green or dark turquoise, kind of like the color of the backdrop of the prose on the screen. And in it is a beautiful way to say, be well, be at peace, because it is the color of peace that the Tao of the planet generally generates as void. Now voids become incredibly mutilated as Taos began to recede, and the planetary void systems weren't working well. And so today we want to replace your green void. And if you received white void due to your participation in the Dreamtime Ascension School or DAS with Asur'Ana Empire, don't touch it with green. Retain the white void unless it's damaged in some way, in which case they will try to weave it together and retain the white void around you. White void is not generated by the planet in this time period. It was generated in Atlantis as a natural stanza of light wave motion. And it may be that the Tao of the planet has to return to white void to support the new rays that are emerging due to the new gold, white, silver ray that's cleaning up the darkness that has collided with her. So maybe she changes directions around voidscape, and that may be better for many because white void is more of a purification stanza of existence. Void is of course the space between. The void fills your seed all the way around you and all the way through you, and provides the space through which your healing temples can occur. Your ancestors can show up, your holographic books are present, and the gates that you go in and out of. For those of you that did the psychic webinar on moving in and out of 4 different gates of angels and Dao and Tao, and also nature. Some have added a 5th gate. The 5th gate is a reality of realization, and you may want to open that gate today too, because that's a gate of introspection, and it is fostered by your Tao. It's a way you can witness a living play about yourself or about your life, so that you need to introspect over to understand your own problems generally of the biology. In right-minded nemesis, you will see a play around where you are having problems resurrecting your chromosomes. The play may have characters that you know who in some way may be incurious to you in their general motion of energy, or their inability to sway, or whatever it is that's going on, and how they interrelate to you. And in that gate, you will see a play about what is afflicting your health, and in so you have a choice to forgive it and change your energy motions so that the pattern you're looking at doesn't bother the biology any longer. And that's bright-minded nemesis, to look at where you're having a problem in your chromosomes or in the cells and witness a play that has to do with that which is incurious towards your body, and clean it up in you, meaning you're not going to sit in that position of swaying with that individual anymore. Or perhaps you will let them go out of your life if they're terribly conflictive, but all the same, it's also about changing the way you motion to circumvent a problem that may be heading towards you. Now, I'm going to say something about this, is that all of you are in need of shutting down gates that connect to the realities of others and pulling yourself back and reeling yourself into the seed of you. It's natural to want to go inside out and poke into others to understand who they are, and the trouble is then you're looking at them and not at you, okay? You don't need to look at others. You only need to look at you. So reel yourself in, pull yourself into your own seaship, and let go of others that have pulled into you. Close the gates behind them and be just within you to understand you from a perspective of your Dao and Tao, the angels, the natural world, and your ancestors of your ontological nature, because inside of you is who you are, and that's what you need to introspect over. This is a very inside-out world. People like to poke into you to see who you are. Let them go. Don't let them poke into you anymore, because it only confuses you about what's right or true for you. As people poke into you, they can put you into fear or depression or some other mindset that doesn't really work for you. If you poke into them, you may feel their emotional discord, but also you may understand the world from their perspective and not your own. It really doesn't work to introspect over somebody else's issues, because you will never get at the problem or quagmire that's sincerely unto you and your own reality. So as you reel yourself in and reel them back, let yourself merge in your seed all of the junk that isn't you down to underneath your foundry. Now first, we run the bright, white, silver, gold light through your seed and through all your gates and all of that to purify it, and then moch follows. Moch is a brown liquid that makes you feel like you have crawled into the cave of the planet. It's very, very soothing, and you can flare the white light through the house and let it go all the way to its foundry. Then mold it when it's through to create the right-minded space for you to live in this place that you reside, and see if that makes you feel better too. Mold is a system that normally goes with light. Therefore, however many hours you run light, you have to mold the whole field to release what has come up that isn't right in the light. Mold is a downward motion, and in this time period is a brown serum. In other time periods, it was other colors, but the brown connects you to the earth. Many of you are very gifted at feeling earth as a protective resource of your life, and so it has always been. So let it be that the mold is in you, and the protective nature of nature is in you, and not in the land anymore. So pull yourself out of the land or sea to feel safe. Those of you living near lakes or sea may put yourself or part of yourself inside out into the land or into the sea to feel safe, and you don't really need to do that in light. It makes it confusing for you because then you're not all home in your own space to be centered in your own self, so that you can know yourself and feel confident and certain about what you're about to do in this life of yours ahead. The land and the sea and waterways have their own emotional problems too, and as you poke into them, you can feel the strife of the land or the sea or the lake as well, especially in regions that are heavily populated by humans, where the sea and the lake and the land tend to absorb human negativity. What's beautiful about the new ray of white, gold, and silver is that it purifies the land and the sea of all the human strife they have taken on through the ages. So nature may feel better too as this all comes down and begin reviving and renewing again in addition to flowering. It's been a very sad decline of the planet for the past 12 years, and it's hard to describe on your octave because you don't see it here. It's more ethereal, and that's very sad, but the ethereal may begin to resprout and regrow, and the life form of the planet may be restored so she doesn't have such an early extinction cycle, and that gives humanity time to complete, hopefully, in gentleness and grace and more kindness, because at some point the light is going to be too bright for most humans to exist anyway, and that may resurface in the next 100 years. It will give closure to a long cycle of shatar and everything that people have known in this oligarchy society, and let it go to rest so the planet can gestate its own completion of its own existence like anyone else. In existence, and it has its Dao and Tao. It has its angels. It has many things you have known as starseeds, and much, much more. It's a much more complex subject matter than a human life, and we always try to bless the planet and love nature and all these things. But in light, they need to resolve their own problems, just as you need to resolve yours. It's time to end the belief that they're going to fix you or you have to fix them as the planet or nature or something else in the land. Because in the reality of it, there's only you, and you need to fix you and not your neighbor or anything else, including nature. You need to introspect in you and not somewhere else that you have learned to protect yourself or whatever it is you fostered to time in this life of yours. In light, it is really a time of realizing you or being centrifugal to who you are and what you want to dream and what you want to do that comes out of the love of you. Difficult to love you if you're not home, if you're scattered to the winds. There are places you have left yourself that you have lived in other time periods, or loved with a beloved, or felt mature grace with the land, or wherever you've traveled or transited in this life of yours. It's time to pull all those pieces of yourself back from wherever they are throughout the planet, and let it be that you grow to be whole and complete in this life of yours. Wholeness is a stature of starseeds, but in this world, most of you have grown very fragmented. It's time to call it all back with all the knowledge that you learned on your ascension path. You need to call it all back and bring it home to you and forgive how it fractionated all over the map. Allow it to either mulch or aerate or fill your archives with something that you learned that you need to introspect over as you be in this life of yours. Of you learned in your ascension traumas, and grace, because ascension was about all three. There were traumas, dramas, and grace, and something to learn about, and that's really all. And in it, there was something that you gained as you learned to forgive, something perhaps you didn't think you could, or come to understand something about the nature of reality that changed your positions, so that you could find compassion for someone you didn't think maybe you ever could, and that happened in ascension. It's a big truth that if your life had been filled with this white, gold, silver ray, you might have not had the strife that you had in childhood or in your partnerships, or with your family, or children, or workspace, or bosses, or whoever it is that you had conflict with through time, because the darkness behind the conflict may have not been there. So the mother that you had, or father that you had, that was an alcoholic, or too angry, or however that worked out in this life of yours, or grandparents, or whoever it is that touched you and you felt abused, understand that had things been different, they may have been very different people too. Undercurrent of something else you can forgive and find compassion for, because all humans are subject to the interplay of the non-physical forces that come to dance with them, no matter who they are. There's a lot of dark forces on this planet, more than ever in the last 10 years. People into a negative space where they can't really love and caress or bless or do the things you like to see happen between people. People often have conflict with one another or witness darkness that they don't like, and whatever it is, that's very sad, because it diminishes the love space where you're in fear of darkness, or feel like you're going to be hit, or something else is going to happen in this life of yours. Often, in the time that you go and be and introspect, all you'll be looking at is the darkness of others. For those of you that are psychic, maybe that's really true, because you want to call it to you, because you don't want to be blasted apart or hit, and then you need to take action to deflect it or do something else. And in it, oh, that's very sad. That's perhaps the most that you introspected over maybe all your ascension years is. Who was dark or who was negative? And who did you need to do something about? It inflated the need to introspect over the darkness of everything, rather than the beauty and grace and the witnessing of the love and the care and the sway that was also there, that got diminished in the backdrop, because the introspection on the darkness grew to be so great, and that in itself has a negative flavor over life too, that isn't as joyous as it could be. That's the trouble with all these forces, isn't it, that are now going to go into the waste bin of the solar system, or wherever they're flowing to, and that you will be freer to perhaps introspect over something else that's maybe more joyful or beautiful to look at and say, wow, that synergy with that person really worked on. I really felt deep care for them. How did we do that, and how could we improve it? Wouldn't that be nice to have a new kin in my life that is beautiful, or a new beloved, or a new friend, or a new pseudo-parent, or so family, however you want to look at. Perhaps in the changes, we'll forgive the past that was so dark, and close a door on it, and open a door to a new truth of a new future where the darkness has simply been dissipated and gone away. And now we need to look at something else, not only in ourselves, but maybe everyone else. Babaji would have loved to see or witness this along with Baba too. Their resources may be reignited, but we're not sure because there's much damage to the infrastructure of the planet. But in all their awareness, they believe that the light would overcome the darkness if there was enough of it. It needed the right rays, the right compounds, the right substances, and then it could simply extinguish the dark forevermore, which is what Atlantis experienced in its time period. They wanted that again. They could have it. They had it for a time in Egypt. Babaji, Baba, and Ananda are all Egyptian resources that came with the Egyptians who landed on craft and got trapped and couldn't leave due to the magnetism of the planet. They built their pyramids. Finally departed the physical. Unfortunately, the remaining ones that were their caregivers of the larger-headed ones went to war and later died of no food because the planet dried up in sick light. They lived on the river and they fished until they gave up their reality and finally quit. It was a sad ending to a beautiful perspective of beautiful beings with larger cortexes that, like Babaji, Baba, and Ananda, only want the family to sway and love and be beautiful in major light systems. To say is that it's a time for that now, that the love and the sway and the light can turn on. Let go of the darkness and the need to believe that it's still there. Just apply the new serum and see what happens on your own awareness. You look at in people because it may be quite different, and it may be quite different in you too. That's what we wanted to speak to, and this session comes, I guess, at a good time in a way to say something more about that. That if you spin dark light, it leads to cancer, and many do because you don't understand. And in your negativity and joylessness or fear or terror or whatever you're dealing with, you end up in dark light. Dark light makes the body sick. The new serum will dissolve the dark light, but where you need to go with it is to let your mind take flight out of negative thoughts. So erase the negative words out of your vocabulary that think sour and let them be not words you choose to even think in your mind any longer, because that's the easiest way to simply turn yourself into right-mindedness in light is if the words aren't there that would want to think dark thoughts about yourself or about others. And perhaps in this time of serum application, that's the best thing you could do for yourself. It's better to have a blank mind than a mind that thinks negative in light, because it only turns the light black? And so it's important to understand that about yourself even as you introspect. And as you introspect, you're going to see the nature of your reality and how it exists adjacent to others, or how it exists in ways that aren't right for you. The realities that aren't right for you can be spun off and merged, and new realities drawn to you that work better if you introspect over what it is so for you in any given day of strife. Therefore, as a reflective quality, everything is related to a reality that's drawn to humanity. And for now, there's going to be a lot of negative realities that are still out there that you will see as you introspect over your day's exchanges. You can take the negative realities and spin them off and spin something else in that maybe works better for your workplace or your family life or your roommates, your friends, or wherever you go socialize through time. Understand you can command that as a star seed when others are ignorant of that at this point and won't know how to change their realities at all. And so the realities need to be assessed as to what works or what doesn't work for each. We are going to begin a series of webinars on how to understand existential realities, clear them if they're not right, create them if you know how to, and also draw them to you so you be better in this emerging time of major light. Are there in many of the poetic prose of Ananda Babaji and also the Tao of Earth, because the positive prose call a beautiful reality to surround you. And in it is an understanding that in the focus of the positive, the beauty, the grace, and the love of everything, what you call to yourself is a reality of the love of everything rather than something that's negative or empty or disturbed in some manner. So as you introspect over what it is that you surround yourself with, you can realize that there is a realization stature of reality you can enter. Let's pull that around you now, and your Tao is providing one for you that she may have acquired somewhere else. And in the realization reality, there's an opportunity to understand yourself from a different vantage point of truth. So what's the truth about the strife you're facing? Is it really true, or is it just a delusion? Or do you need to shift something in you to change you, and then let what bothers you simply vaporize? What is it that you're facing in this world of yours that's so difficult that you want to cringe or cry or shrink away and crawl under a rock, or not motion out into the world to foster something new you would like to create for yourself? What is it that is there that is really about you and something that injured you way back in time? Because usually when you hit those stanzas of fear or strife or depression or sourness, there's something that happened way back in time that you need to forgive and cleanse out of you, okay? At the moment of birth, which was a shock to your nervous system, because you weren't born underwater and in gentleness, but in some other state that wasn't well for you, your mind, or anything else. After birth, you're lucky, but most didn't. And whatever it is, you can trace your ill fears and strive all the way back to the moment you exited your mother's womb. And now is perhaps a good time to say, okay, let's let that go now. Let's heal it. Let's go in another direction. Let's grow in another direction that we overcome our mother fears. I'm going to call them mother fears because they're a deep wounded system in all humans. For the nature of births in this reality. Sometimes shadowed realities that come into your own airstream that you sit within that don't feel right or don't feel well or related to how you felt the moment you were born, when a beautiful reality wasn't present to receive you with spirit or Dao or Tao or love of angels, or whatever went wrong in the hospital or hospice or wherever you were born. Understand that that's a deep wound, and it may take a fair amount of introspection to get at the root of what you felt or believed or thought that draws shadowed realities to you that repeat those stanzas of feelings again and again through time in your life. There were also other times you went into that kind of reality that was fractionated in shock because you were born in shock. Because it's a shock to exit the womb the way humanity gives birth to itself. Could do it some other ways, but they don't seem to be aware enough to understand that. So whatever it is, the shock is a shock, and the shock creates a motion, and the motion is there as something that calls disjointed realities to you again and again through time. As you get to the shock of birth and heal it, you will begin to diffuse why you need to have sick realities come around you at all, that alter your dance with others or your dance in yourself to be negative or non-supportive of your world of you. The other thing you can introspect over is the need of love you had or didn't have with either parent. So maybe your father loved you and your mother didn't, or perhaps your mother bonded with you and your father didn't. Maybe they both did and you were one of the lucky ones that had a pair of seed parents or seedling parents that were very gracious and cared for their little one entering the world. Most probably didn't have that experience, and in it is other kinds of circumstance of realities you draw to yourself that may leave you feeling forlorn or unloved or uncared for or unbeautiful or unsacred or any of those negative realities that you have probably known some, even if you weren't entirely aware of why you were sitting in them. It may be time to go back and forgive your parents for harboring darkness that couldn't be cleared with this white, gold, silver light. And the darkness that was in there that didn't love you, because behind the non-love is some dark system of creature or whatever it is that doesn't know how to love, and it affects human heart space, care space, sway, and everything else that you would think would be beautiful in a culture of humans that loved one another. Perhaps you forgive it. It's just something that they couldn't control in the backdrop of the human experience on earth that's sick. And it wasn't really that they maybe couldn't love you if that wasn't there and an angel was in its place. Perhaps that helps you recognize something else about yourself, that in the forgiveness of it you sweep away the ill realities and no longer need to sit in them, that say you're non-loved or non-cared for or can't be cared for enough to have the things you really desire to bring forward into your life dream stream so you can feel fulfilled in this dance of you in life. And maybe in that you will find compassion for a parent or a sibling that was perhaps out of control with their temper or just negative too much in another way, that made you feel miserable or others miserable because they just couldn't find the love and the care space in themselves enough to share it. It's all the darkness behind the backdrop of humanity that's the cause of that. And now that gets whisked away, leading into another time and perhaps an opportunity to forgive the darkness in your own birth family and how that's afflicted you maybe your entire life. Let that go too, so you can learn to call realities to you that are gracious and beautiful, in which you can be there and be present and be understanding and compassionate with others too, because that's what right-mindedness leads to. The whole purpose behind being and introspecting over your life is to find your way to right-mindedness. And right-mindedness doesn't occur in negative stature or thoughts. That's why we tell you to erase your negative words, because you don't need those kinds of thoughts, since you can't stay in right-mindedness otherwise. Right-mindedness calls to you realities that are beautiful to flow within, and so call to yourself a reality of deep care of the angelic realm now to surround yourself. Bless the angels that show up to the infinite awareness that they need to support you as beautiful starseeds trying to witness yourself and understand your truth and understand your life and understand what it is you need to forgive and find compassion for to be more at peace. Let them love you and let the exchange of love go in and out and around the angels and back to you. Now the angels will stand outside your egg, and they are different from the angels in the gate you can go into to introspect with angels. These angels are angels that will help to offer you healing from the outside of your seed and perhaps manage your gates better or manage some other things in your life, your foundry and other things that maybe need to be corrected some. As you introspect and you go inward, you can love yourself and then love spirit that's outside of yourself, like the angels, and then call the love back into the heart space and learn to sway there and sing there in yourself a beautiful melody of the love, of the love, of the love within. It's the love of the love of the love within that leads to compassionate action, because as you love yourself enough inside yourself, you can find compassion for most anything that's broken, because most everything and everyone is broken on this planet. Baba's theory is that we're all broken birds, and sometimes we repeat the broken bird pattern because we don't know how to heal the issue behind it within ourselves. So we have to find compassion for ourselves in being broken in the first place. And we're broken because we were born into a circumstance of pain and shock, and that would break anyone. In Atlantis, they tried to overcome it with underwater births of right temperature fluids and all these things. The kids came out with less shock and were happier in life as a result. You can go back and heal that anyway, even though it happened to you. Forgive it and find compassion for your mother, who may have been in terror about your birth, because it's terrifying to give birth to children. Those of you that have done so understand that. Sometimes the child takes on the non-peace of the mother also, and then feels it for months afterwards, and that's very painful also. So we would just say that it's time to heal your mother wound today in light of the new light substances that are coming forward to ingratiate your life. And so let go of your mother, send her back in herself and into her world wherever she was when you came to be in this cycle of life, and let her go back and let yourself come forward, letting go of that time period, spinning away from it as an injury that you need to continue with today. Then pick up all the threads anywhere else that you had parallel wounds and the timeline since you were born until the day that you lived today. Pick up the threads where you sat in a shattered world of shock of some kind due to something that happened in your life. Pick up each thread, whatever age that it was, and bring it forward in time and dissipate it into the mulch bin of you, that you need not be shocked again by something that happens to you. You can create another kind of reality that won't call that kind of experience to you ahead. The right to be an introspect is to heal yourself, and so we're showing you a way to heal yourself through time. You put up a timeline of you at age 0 and all the way to the age that you are now, and you look for places where there's ruptures in you from things that happened that were very critically abusive or injurious emotionally, or injurious in some other manner that may have been more subtle. Whatever it is, there's a theme, and you will see that the breaks in each time range are related. And as you choose to spin the origin shut, which would be the earliest age or place that you were wounded, and then bring it forward to catch up all the other wounds and spiral it shut until you bring it up into the now and mulch it. You begin to clear a lot of the things that call to you ill realities or ill experiences with others that are just a reflection of a shadowing of you in your past. And that's all they really are. When you heal them, the incident won't occur again, and you will find another way to dance in this lifeline and lifetime of yours. It's difficult sometimes in partnership where one is as aware as the other. That's your partner, or if you're with a partner that's unconscious. Sometimes they're unable to heal their wounds, leading to ruptures that recur here and there that you don't really understand in yourself. And the best thing to do is heal you of what's triggered, because you can't really heal them. If they're aware, they can introspect as you are and heal their own wounds and fallacies related. But often people of the oligarchy society don't know how to heal their past at all, like we're showing you. At best, they might be able to think about it, but then they tend to go into fantasy realities of social programming to be. That's an odd experience if you've ever witnessed it, and we'll give you an example of that, where the mother really beat up the child, but the child doesn't remember it at all, and in adulthood he puts her in the fantasy of being the ideal mother for him after all. So he caters to her as the prince of himself, but in the truth of it, there's huge abuse and the undercurrent of whatever transpired, and he doesn't know it at all. It may not affect him in his fantasy realities, and when she dies, he may be very grateful she's gone and not know why he's relieved to have her out of his life. That's one example. That type of things happens to people in the oligarchy society because they can't stand the truth of what happened to them as a child, or even in midlife, or even in a rape, and they forget about it and go into a hallucinated system where they just create a fantasy that never was, so they can be okay in their lives. That's very, very sad, but that's all they can do. So forgive them, whoever they are in your life. They don't know how to do anything but hallucinate around one another that everything's alright, or they can't stand their life. So leave it alone, and you want to introspect. If you go into that circumstance and point things out, it disrupts their hallucination about themselves that makes them okay. Perhaps that's not the right-minded thing to do with people who can't heal inside their life. If they can heal, you know it as a healer, and try to help them integrate their broken inner family and inner children. But for many of us, that's hard to know. And you're better as a therapist of some sort, not touching upon things that might really blow them up inside themselves because they can't really get there in their own lifeline to release the pain. You can't go there and release it for them. That's just not really possible. So we mention that to those of you that are healers or counselors, that people can get more wounded if they introspect too much, and maybe it's better to focus upon the positive of their fantasy and let them stay there to fix themselves in a way that can carry on with their life if they have been traumatized. For those that are seas or ceilings, then getting to the root of your cause and effect problems such as in-birth trauma, child trauma, and other traumas throughout life, throughout time is very natural and very easy. And it's how you piece yourself together towards wholeness. So the whole point of realization cycle for any of us in this kind of society is to retrieve all the parts of yourself and grow whole, and then finally you go home. That's the purpose of the right to be and to introspect over your own nature and over your own world. It's not hard to do if you just think about your current circumstance in the backdrop of what happened to you and your childhood or teenage years if you can remember it. Sometimes memory banks of childhood wounds or traumas are not as easy to retrieve as you think. And so what the Tao says is, I'll help you retrieve your memories from those emotional discourse of your early life and bring them to the surface of your consciousness as you go into the flux point of the right to be and introspect. So you can see what you need to see about your past and say, oh, okay, I remember that now. I fell off my bike and nobody was there and I cried all night. Or whatever it was that happened to you, and then you pick up the threads of every time you felt helpless, however that works, and you start to integrate all that into your own wholeness. Inner family also has another aspect to it, which is called ancestry that was traumatized. You can call the ancestors that were traumatized like you experienced in your inner family forward and watch a little play of what they experienced that injured their life in some way and choose to forgive that too. Asur'Ana used to work that way a long time ago. Do the inner family and the ancestors and clear it all, and then you feel better. And if you find that helpful, then look at the ancestors that experienced the same discord you're trying to work through and allow them an opportunity to heal you inside of you. That may be easier to understand that these kinds of problems go around in other cultures or other civilizations where perhaps the synergy of care space or loss of loved ones or some other kind of loss that's so large the ancestors record that maybe in their life or at the end of their life. And they're still in their own way trying to forgive it too. You are a future projection of all your ancestors, and so as you go back through time with what they witnessed, you too can heal of whatever was caused to repeat or regurgitate what they experienced into a reality of a place like Earth that's way more disenergized or way more dense or dark than perhaps any place they lived, increasing the trauma, increasing the problem in a sense an emotional cord within your past. And so theirs might have been mild compared to yours, but pain is pain, and the need to realize beyond it is a need to gather yourself back and diffuse the vibration of pain or the vibration of fear or the vibration of terror, the vibration of anxiety or the vibration of anything negative. Everything negative has a vibration, and it can be moshed and diffused out of you. The words that are negative call the negative energies or vibrations to your field. That's why it's important to get rid of the negative words, because they call in the negativity of a vibration that then doesn't feel well upon your body or within your body and leads to disease. So the need to be positive is of paramount at this time of the need to release the negativity and understanding that is only a vibration, nothing else. Humans have recorded countless words filling the dictionary that's negative, and equally countless words that are positive or more supportive of life in some way. And the negativity is needing to be diffused in all the star seeds so that you can be in right-mindedness and find your way to realize you beyond your traumas, to grow towards wholeness and a non-shadowed state within, so that you don't cause yourself to be shadowed without, because wherever you are within will manifest without. The more you strive to heal it and grow whole, the more likely you are to cause wholeness streaming to unfold. So the purpose of the right to be an introspect is to grow whole. As you grow whole, you feel in all parts of yourself that are lost, and then that calls a wholeness stream to you. Now, what's a wholeness dream in the truth of all that is? Wholeness dream says you can have whatever you envision, and you're not limited in some way. In this society, you can usually have the partnership, or have the great job, or have the child and got the spouse, or have the big bank account and nothing else, or have the house and not the partner or family that you love. You can have this or that. It's a this or that society. In wholeness, you can have it all. You can have the house and the spouse, or the loved, or the beloved, and a child if you want one, or a garden. Maybe you'd rather have a garden. I don't blame you, because children can be a pain too. Or the love of the love of the love within, and realize yourself, you can have that too. In wholeness, you're not limited to be. In wholeness, you're not limited to the fulfillment of all dreams you're seeking to dream. And in light, the fractionation can manifest quite greatly and more easily outward, causing you to feel more limited than perhaps ever before in this life of yours. So as you heal the fractionation, the light wave dreams you draw to yourself are whole and complete and fulfilling. You have to do the inner work to pick up the threads of where you're still fragmented, that maybe you couldn't see in ascension bandwidth of understanding, because perhaps you've been working on this for a long time, and most of you have, whether you're aware of it or you sleep through it, and you keep picking up things from yourself. But wherever was fractionated in the octaves of ascension are different from what fractionated in the octaves in light. So you thought I've already worked on that. I'd really complete with it. Well, I got news, maybe not. Perhaps in a bandwidth of light is still fragmented, and then you go on and call a fragmented dream to you, or you lose your job, or lose something you think you need, or feel limited, or feel like life isn't working out for you. So you need to go back in the light and pick up all the pieces of the fractionation of you in all the octaves you have transfused through, that maybe you haven't done this right-minded work adequately enough. Do it vividly and consciously to heal and seal you into the wholeness of the star seed that you are. And then out of that wholeness, go forward and dream your dreams of wholeness and receive the gifts of all that's possible in this life of yours. And in that, you will move yourself to where you're needed, or be with the ones that are right for you, and do the right-minded job that creates the income that you find joy in, or whatever it is you're struggling with in this life of yours, over where you're limited or fragmented through time. It's a very fragmented reality. And as you descended into the body parts of you, shucked off everywhere, and as you rise up in light, you start to pick up the pieces that fractionated as you descended into life. That's another thing to introspect over, and that's where your soul and spirit perhaps got fractionated as you were entering the world to be born. You can go back in time to that moment of birth and start to pick up those pieces in the octaves that you reside within to allow your soul and spirit to be whole too. Each has a soul, each has a spirit, each has angels that are part of your world. We also have a Dao and Tao. Dao and Tao do not fractionate. They stay in the backdrop, so they're okay. It's spirit and soul that fractionate as you descend to be born in a reality like Earth. And they'll help you bring those pieces back so that where you go in your homecoming of you is more whole in relation not just to yourself that fractionated in your wounds to time, but also grows more whole in the soul and spirit of you. You are a spirit too that descended to be in the physical. The spirit of you is beautiful and wanted to live a life of a star seed realizing itself, so you wouldn't be working with Asur'Ana and pair. Or you wouldn't be working with Asur'Ana and pair. So we bless each of you from an understanding that the spirit of you has been wounded too, and it's time to heal it of what shattered it in its descent into the physical, in addition to the wounds that may have shattered you through time too. So we give a blessing to spirit and a blessing to you to grow whole within you too in the star seed ship that you are. And as you have soul, you know who you are on another level that has to do with soul. Soul says, I am that you are physical. So it's an I am that you are physical, that your soul says to you, and to be well as a physical jurisdiction of my right to exist as the soul of you. Soul should be of the golden or silver octave, depending on what your nature is. So allow gold or silver depending on what's right for your nature of soul to fill you now. Your spirit is a spirit that desires to be human and descended with soul inside the egg to incarnate. Sometimes it was shocked and died before you were born. If so, call it back into time now and let it be here with you now. Spirit doesn't re-enter usually if it's shocked and it died, and sometimes it may have stayed with you 5 years or less and then was shocked and died. The loss of spirit is very, very painful to your childhood. So call it back and make good with it that you're the spirit of you in this body of yours, and that the spirit of you is here to live this life until it's through. Be well with the spirit of you that descended and died and resurrected and reconstituted into the beauty of who you were meant to be in the birthright of you to live and love you. In the birthright to live is a journey that is very beautiful, holographic, and archetypal in nature. There are places where spirit and soul can get shattered too. Earth is not the only one of these, but Earth is in a magnitude of 100, when other places may be a magnitude of a 10 that your star seed might have incarnate. There isn't a soul or a spirit that doesn't get shattered on Earth in the human quagmire through time, and that's a sad thing to recognize, because soul drives the life forward into the pursuits of right-mindedness and a spiritual path that works for you and humanity. Humanity's discord is a reflection of a soullessness and a spiritlessness that has surrounded them for a long time, perhaps since they even came from their creation of origin on spacecraft. Whatever it is, you're a seed that should be ensouled and should have your spirit present. So let's correct this today, because then you will introspect not only with Dao, Tao, angels, and nature, but also the soul and the spirit of you about this life of yours, in addition to your ancestors. So that's a full view of what should introspect with you over this life of yours, and be well with that as it re-emerges to assess you too, as to who you are in this world of yours as you live your life. For maybe soul hasn't been with you for a long time. It needs to catch up on what you've caused and affected, and who you are in this life of yours. Perhaps that's true for the spirit of you that died when you were under age 5, needs to catch up. So please bless it and let it see who you are and what you're trying to do in the love of you, for you, and hopefully for everything else too. Your right to be an introspect is highly personal, and we will advise you not share your personal understanding until you have come to a point of a truth about what you have learned, and then share that truth avidly, because the truth of what you learned is to be reposed and shared for others to find a truth about it in themselves too. But when there's old wounds and lots of things you're graveling about, stay intimate within it, within you, until you come to a seed and a place within you that is forgiven and surmounted and in compassionate action. And then you can be in the truth of what it took for you to forgive and find compassion with something that was ill in your life. That's an amazing accomplishment for anyone on earth, and it's what starseeds are often gifted at. Therefore, we bless you as you find more time to be an introspect. Take time on your weekends or your time off to have 4 to 6 hours to just be an introspect. If you need to go into nature, then do so. Some like to introspect as they walk, and they find that the motion with the trees and the breeze is easier for them to go inward and see who they are. Some prefer to do it when they sit quietly in a chair or someplace beautiful, maybe by a lake or under the trees. Whatever it is, find your way to introspect over your own quagmires and heal your past of the fragmentation and wounds that occurred in these light octaves you're transfusing through, and grow towards wholeness where the dreams of fulfillment can be fostered in this life of yours. That's really all we have to say. And be beautiful today. Namaste.